So let's talk about the basics about files and file reading. File reading in Java when I started was a bit of a pain. Uh it's gotten much better. Now why am I talking about Java though? Because in Python, it's a breeze. It's essentially actually what made me fall in love with Python to begin with, because it worked exactly how I wanted it to work. It was amazing. It was great. It was just so surprising that it was so easy. Okay, but first, what the heck is a file? Well, it's a thing stored on your computer. It's a bunch of collected bits and some information. So let's take a look at this file of Happy Feet, which you should hopefully be familiar with at this point. This is a JPEG file. A JPEG file, okay, is a type of picture file. It uses some kind of compression algorithm to do this. But here's the interesting thing. This JPG is actually unnecessary on it. All files basically have two parts. Or rather, your computer thinks of them as having two parts, essentially, or one part, depending as the need might be. It really just is one thing, which is this whole entire thing. But your computer, right, when I clicked on it to change its name, it kind of helpfully just highlighted just the file name, and this thing over here, the dot after, is called the file type. Now, what the dot file type does is that it identifies it as this kind of file, which is actually pretty useless. It's completely unnecessary. Just doesn't understand what it is right now. Okay, so now I just open up photos, right? And now if I just simply drag in the photo, okay, so, well, some programs that will work. But some programs that will work. Apparently doesn't work for Photos because Photos doesn't want you to do something dumb. But okay, it was a JPEG earlier. But say I can't remember. Oh no. Was it a PNG, which is a different type of file? Wait, no, I've got to put a dot. Oh, it's still open just fine, even though I put the wrong file type in. So, what? How did it open? Well, here's something I can drag it into. Whoop. Oh, hey, Visual Studio Code. Now if I go ahead and rename this into a different type of file. Okay, let's go ahead and rename this to a text file. Okay. And there is a point to this, to getting more point to this than just you staring at my dog more. So it says, okay, look at this as a text file. Don't try to open it. Do you want to open it because it's an binary or use on? Yes, I want to open it anyway. Okay. Aha. And there's information there. English information. Csv Photoshop 3.0. Great. Don't remember using Photoshop, but whatever. And then gobbledygook, which is to say there are two types of files, and only two types, or rather two categories, because there's lots of types of files. The first file type is something that's very easy to see with pictures and videos, right? These are the types of files that basically are not meant to be read by humans. They're meant to be read by a computer and displayed in a program a specific way, right? This one says, hey, these are pixels that are meant to be displayed in a certain way. Okay? The other type, which is the file types that we are concerning ourselves with, not pictures, although, right, some of the activities we might do concern ourselves with messing with pictures, are in text file. Now, this text could possibly be in a language you don't understand, but it's still text. It's meant to be read by a human being, right? By the way, Python's awesome. It basically supports any language you need out of the box. So that's fine. So how do I read a file anyway? And why is this important? Well, because when we're dealing with data, we'll commonly see it in a large format. So for here, I'm dealing with, this is what's called a CSV file. Named so because everything is separated by comma separated values. So for those of you who are unaware, this is Pokemon.csv. Is it all the Pokemon? I don't know what generation it is to. Does it have? Okay, yeah, no, this is pretty much all the Pokemon up to maybe might missing one or two depending on if they've released any extra ones, but yeah, up to the most recent generation. Okay, but anyway, these are a list of Pokemon. They've gotten quite a number of them right now, including some variations. But here, this is what we call a CSV file, meaning that it's a bunch of data, a bunch of rows and columns separated by commas. So here, right, Bulbasaur is Pokemon number 1. That's its name, and here is its base stats, 45, 49, 49. And I understand what these mean because I played way too much Pokemon, but it's okay that you don't understand what this means. It's fine. You don't need that. Actually, it tells you right over here, total. But these dictate the equation for growth for this Pokemon, which is pretty cool. Competitive Pokemon is serious business, really is. And in case you're wondering, yes, my favorite Pokemon, Gallade, Gyarados, are two of my favorites. I'm very big fans of those Pokemon. So, anyway. Oh, and Flygon. Those basically are my favorites. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Okay. So I've got this giant file, and I might want to do some statistical analysis on it, or some basic kind of thing on it, and figure out stuff. How would I do that? Well, I'd have to read the file, because copying and pasting this in and then putting lists around it manually would be a bit of a pain, right? It's already in here. Now, CSV files are important because I'll double-click on it normally, and you'll see that it's Microsoft Excel, comma separated values file. And, oh, no, it wants to open, and so I'll tell it to open with Excel this time. And you'll see that Excel just nicely puts it into a formatted table for me. In fact, I can then, like, I could save it as an Excel file from here, or I could take some, if my Excel file is just basically text and doesn't have any like pictures or stuff that I want to save, I can export it as a CSV to do some operations on it. Very useful file format, CSV. CSV, again, stands for comma separated values. It is just simply a text file, but that extension tells it that it can be opened up in Excel, right? That's, again, the point of these file type extensions is to tell the program, or is basically to tell the operating system, when I double click on this, what should I open it with? Because as we saw with Happy Feet, we could totally lie to the computer on the surface about what file type it was. Okay, so let's suppose I want to open up a file. And so for this, you don't have necessarily access to Pokemon.csv. So let's go ahead and just work with something a bit simpler. Okay, so we're going to go to Project Gutenberg. Gutenberg. So just Google Gutenberg and you'll get to Project Gutenberg, which is named after the Gutenberg Bible and the printing press. So it is awesome. Actually, about what are we named after? It doesn't matter. Founder of Project Gutenberg Memory. Okay. Regardless. So what is Project Gutenberg? It's a bunch of free books. Okay. Specifically, these are books that are out of copyright within the United States. You can find some more books if you go for other websites, like you can find 1984 in Australia. Copyright law is in the U.S., and how long that lasts for is a topic for another day. It is really tough. I, for one, blame our rodent overlords for this, but okay. Regardless, let's go and get something that is in the public domain and has been for a while, which is Shakespeare. Okay. Actually, no, it is October. No. We are going to go and get Dracula. by Bram Stoker. Okay, now there's a lot of different formats, but what we're going to go for is plain text UTF-8. UTF-8 is the type of encoding, and you'll see that it comes up as just a giant text file. And you could get it for your specific e-reader however you want here. But here we just want the text file. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'll go ahead and save it as Dracula.txt. TXT for text file. It should be on my desktop. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and just move it over here into the folder that I want to work in. And there we go. We have our files here. Okay, so how do I open this file? I've been yammering on for how long now? 10 minutes. Should probably get to the actual action. How do I open a file? It's super simple in Python. There's actually a lot of ways to do it, and I'll show you all the ways I know how to do it in a very short amount of time. Is that going to be an issue? No, they're all incredibly easy. They all do incredibly different and useful things, and no one way is better than the other. You use what feels best in the situation. How to read.py. Boom. Open it up. Let's go ahead and learn how to read a file. So to open a file, you gotta have it in somewhere that I can see it. I gotta know what the path is. The easiest way to do that for right now is that everything has to be in the same folder. So they're in the same folder. I will be happy to explain file structure at a later juncture and how the different operating systems do that. It is essentially the same, except that Windows uses a drive-based system, and Mac uses the more reasonable and logical Unix-based Unix system. Although the Windows way does have its advantages somewhat. Whatever. Point being is that it's simple. But they all follow a tree structure. But the point being is that we all want to be on the same kind of level. So everything's in this folder. So the file I'm working on, how to read Python, is in the same folder. So the way I do that is I do basically a series of commands. First, I use the open command, if I can spell. It takes in a couple different things. Namely, it takes in the file and the mode. Those are the two most important things. So the file I want to read is I want to read Dracula. Don't forget to put in part of the txt as well. That is part of its name, Dracula.txt. And the next thing I do is I say R, like I'm a pirate. But that stands for read. And yes, there is also a write. Don't do that because that will erase the file. Because you're going to be writing. But we're going to learn 3 modes. Read, write, append. We'll learn the other ones later. Read is the most important because most of the time you're going to be reading. You're going to be reading a lot more than you write. We open it and we store that in a variable. I'm going to store it in something data. This is holding the memory location of where we start to read this file. And so this is what this is basically how I can read this, which is I can go this is the most basic way. Data dot read. Okay. Run it to make sure nothing horrible happens. Okay, something horrible happened. So said it was in UTF-8 and it couldn't decode it. This is annoying. Give me 1 second. So, okay. From what I can tell, it's looking for this encoding format for some reason, but we know it's a UTF-8 file. So what I'm going to do is, and I knew how to do this, I just want to double check and see if there was any more information. It was, so what I should do over here is I just need one more thing because I know the encoding for it, which is UTF-8. Encoding equals, I think, let's see, was it UTF-8? No. Oh, that worked. And rather than just try to print out the whole thing, I'm going to print out just the first 1,000 characters of it. And that's the first 1,000 characters of the file for Dracula. Let's go ahead and print out the first 10,000. right? And again, I just did a slice to do that. What? Okay, so that's it. That's all it's needed to read a file. I say, hey, Dracula.txt. I want to read it. If I need to specify the encoding, I do so. I just simply specified UTF-8. I wonder if UTF-8 works, but it does. Does it? Yeah, it did. Great. Okay. And so what this does is data.read. Very simple. Takes your file, stores it as, and converts it into a string. Stores it in text. Now we just got a big string. How many characters do I have? Let's find out. Now there's a reason I only printed out. It's because it's 865,000 characters. If I just print out the entire thing, that could take a bit. Printing actually takes a long time. Let's see. Let me put down my dinner exactly. Where'd that get to? Interesting that it didn't make it that far. Perhaps there was a limit. Print. Should print out the entirety of this file. Let's make sure. Print out the last bits. The last 10,000 characters. Yeah, so it stored the entire thing. It probably just didn't want to print out the entire file. It probably just did not want to print out the entire file for me, which is weird. I've never had that happen before. Okay. So that's fine. Does it change at all if I do that? Sorry that I'm experimenting. I'm actually just very interested. All right. Yeah. So no worries. But the entire thing is in there. We know it is because we asked for the last. Again, I can ask for the last 100 characters this time. Oh, sorry, that's the first 100. The last 100 are negative 100 all the way up to the end. Right, because negative indices wrap around. Hear about our new ebooks. There we go. Okay, no worries there. So that's how you can read a file in Python. Okay, but what about other ways? I mentioned there were other ways. The other way, well, this just simply dumps the entire thing into text, into a text file. Another way to do that is to do, and I got to comment out here because if I try to read it again, text2 is equal to data.read, print text2. One of the rules is you can only really read it once because it kind of keeps a marker of where it is and it goes to the end, and now the marker's at the end, so there's nothing else to read. You'd have to reopen the file if you wanted to read it again, essentially. But here, and yes, I'll kind of just prove it. Len again, boom, 0. Right? Didn't read anything. Okay, so that's why I'm going to comment this out. So that's technique number 1, the easiest by far. Another way, super easy, is do lines is equal to data.read lines, which take a guess as to what you think it does. It reads the lines, obviously, but like, how does it do it? Print lines. Let's go ahead and see. Okay, it's got a bunch of stuff in here, but it's got commas in it. What it's done is that here it's got the first line, the second line, the third line. So what it's done is that it split it by new line. It put every single line into its own index. It created a list where every line has its own index. So as we see, we have 15,871 lines. So if I print out, and 15,871 may not just simply be catching some of the lines at the end, whatever. Let's go ahead and see what, oh, right, because, no, it makes sense, because we start at line 1, this will start at line 0. Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and look at line 6, or index 6, right? This should confirm that. Index 6. Which should be index, so yep, 7. So off by 1, right? Index 6 gives us the 7th line. Makes total sense. So great. We can do it that way as well, which is useful. Just remember, it just gives you it also gives you the new line as well at the end. Finally, the way that made me, fall in love with Python was doing it this way, which was 4-line in data. And I just kind of tried it without looking it up, and it worked. Python works on the principle of being as least surprising as possible. There, boom. It printed out everything. Every single line. It also did the new line. Let me take away the new lines as part of every line. That's kind of annoying. Boom. And there we go. That is how the 3 ways to read a file in Python. That should be enough for the day as far as this goes. Now, before you completely close that, let's talk about the final exam. Yes, I know. It seems a bit early to be thinking about that, but the reason I bring this up is because I love file reading questions on the final exam. And typically, they are of the things of like, please redact this information from somebody who could do this. Last year, it was health insurance. Please redact this health insurance information from this file. Another year was please remove all the social security numbers from the file. So basically, open up the file, read it, and create a new file, but with all this information that I want you to remove redacted. So we'll learn how to do that with that part with regular expressions. The code actually, if you know how to do it, takes 7 lines about. It's impressively concise code. Very impressively concise. Okay. So just file reading is, if for no other reason, is important because it's going to be on your final exam. But if this is your only computer science class, you're going to be dealing with files a lot, especially Excel files, and knowing how to manipulate files like this will make your life a whole lot easier. Because Python's really good and powerful at doing that. Finally, that is, we will be going into detail about how to read, how to work with files in general, more on Thursday. All right, I'll see you all on Thursday.